This tutorial will be an overview of all basic features that the map maker can do. Being that this is a blank map, our first step will be to size the map and then load the layout map so that we can start putting the countries down. We'll use the terrain edit button found up here so that we can accurately size the map to its required size. The required size in this case being 1454 by 740. There we go, we've got the map sized properly. Next step will be to load the layout picture, which won't look as good as the final picture, but is our development layout map. We'll click the load picture button here, as well as load it by calling its name. We'll click load, and it will be properly shown onto the map now. Our first step, or at least the first step I generally do after I toggle back to editing game objects, is to start loading the outline via borders. Borders are used to outline countries where armies may move. Countries may also have cities which allow people to get troops. As a risk equivalency, you can think of countries as blank areas that do not give troops, and cities as the actual countries that would give troops in risk. So our first step will be to open up a border from here, and to start doing the outline. I like to tap A twice. As you can see in the top corner, the border button is now red, so that whenever I release the button, it automatically adds another border that I can keep working with. Now at this point, if we were to use the country generation icon to generate the inside countries, you'll notice there's just one, and it's this big country that covers the entire map. Obviously, that's not what we want. At this point, you could have done one of two things. You could have started cutting countries from their smallest to their biggest to create the outline at the end, but I much prefer creating the outline first and then having everything be created from them. As you can see, if we generate the countries again, now there's two, because we have cut the inside here. From there, we can just continue making countries. Now, I worked really hard to go that fast, but like you can see, we've got a lot of little borders, little red ones all over the place that don't really look that good. Well, if we right-click on the border button, it gets rid of all loose borders so that we can finish our map. Now, at this point, I could change over to the regular map, the one that looks good, the one that you guys will see in the end, but I'm going to put down all of the cities, and I'm going to name them all before I do that, just so it's easy on me. Now, before we place down a bunch of cities, one thing that we did forget to do is to cut out the new countries. As you can see, there's only two right now, but if you click the Generate the Inside of Countries button, now every single country exists. As well, every adjacent country, as you can see, is a country that it can move to. Now, this isn't exactly how we want this map to go. We do want some small amount of flow control. So what we'll do for flow control is we'll create some impassable borders. Like you can see, this country right now can access all four of these other countries. But with a couple of simple right clicks, now it can only be accessed by Catlandia. So let's just quickly do the other ones. I'd say I'm on a roll, but at least a few of you will think that I'm speeding up the video. And now that we have every single country down properly, and as you can see, people can only invade countries from where we want them to be invaded from, let's put down all of the cities. Now that all of the cities are properly put down, the first thing I'll point out is that you cannot put duplicate cities on an area. It will be unallowed. Now that all of the cities are down, let's change the terrain picture to the appropriate picture so that we can see what it would look like, or what it will look like when it's done. Much better. Now that we've got all of the cities on the map, we can name them what they're supposed to be called. You can use the C key to unselect a current object. As well, you can right-click on any object, such as a country, or a border, which is how we did our passable and impassable terrain, or a city. Cities being the most large portion of what the game, the interactions with the game is, have more features than the other ones. You can, actually, first of all, let's create some races. So the first race that we'll have is the Redneck Survivors. Her Harper's Imperial Forces. And the Royal Canadian Birdwatchers Society. Now that we've got these three races down, we can right-click on the city again to select it, and change it to the name that it's supposed to have, which in this case is No Canada Like Redneck Canada. We can also select a starting side, which is who will own it at the start, no one, the Rednecks, Her Harper, or the Royal Canadian Birdwatchers Society. We'll select the Rednecks for this one since this is their starting point on this map. Now we'll just go through and name every other city. Whew, that went fast. Now that we've done quite a bit, let's save our new map. And go down here to the Save Map button. We can create a story arc or select a story arc. Since this is part of these Rednecky Americas, let's select it. And now let's save it. Because let's say we ran out of power, we don't exactly want to do all of this all over again. And now let's go back to selecting the first country. As you can see, we can add buildings so that it has starting buildings. And we can also select a unit count for this city. For this map, since it's the Redneck starting area, we'll leave the unit count at 0, and we won't select it, which means that it'll start off with the default of 4 units. Unless, of course, you alter that in the game rule set. We also will change most of the countries here and most of the countries here, who will go to either Her Harper's Imperial Forces, which will be this half, or the Royal Canadian Birdwatchers Society, which will be this part. The first step of this is we'll make every single country that needs to be part of whichever empire's territory part of whichever empire's territory. As you can see, we can click up here again. Click Her Harper's Imperial Forces, and now Mandatory Toronto is part of Her Harper's Imperial Forces. Let's just do that for the rest of them. And that's all of the cities put to the appropriate side. As well, we will add 2 labels. One in the south, which you can rename at the top. And there you go. We can rename the label via the label name up here, as well as resize its text. And that's about it. We've got a basic map done, no events currently, but you can follow us on the ZAV Advanced Map Maker Tutorial 2 for that. And every single country's got the basic unit count, which would be incredibly horrible for the rednecks in this case. We will be changing that along with the events later on. I'd like to thank you for following the tutorial, as well as the preview of the map maker in this game, and keep up to date. There'll be more videos coming shortly.